divine or God. Is that something that has any connection to what you are saying as realization?
Absolutely. I mean, I think the divine is, the divine can be conceptualized in many different ways, just like the self or Brahman can be conceptualized in many different ways. The divine is nothing other than Brahman.
Yeah.
Uh, you know, yes, there's technical Vedantic distinction, which, it's true that, between so-called, Saguna Brahman, Nirguna Brahman, right? There's a Brahman of
Yes.
forms, the Brahman of
Correct.
non-forms. There's God, which, usually is
Which is
associated
the
with Saguna
Saguna
Brahman,
Brahman. Yeah.
right? Um, which is fine. I mean, I don't mind that distinction. But yeah, I mean, basically at its core, what is the divine? The divine is that from that which everything is at its most essential, that which is, and also, that which is beyond conception, beyond the possibility of thought, beyond the
Right.
possibility of understanding, and yet it is here. It is what controls, if anything controls. It is what rules, if anything rules. And it is completion, it is perfection, it's beyond all the miseries and pain and suffering. It is something which is perfect, right? So yes, I very much think the divine is related to this. And I believe that for seekers praying to God, I do believe that there is a power that, that will help seekers if they pray for help. Absolutely. So yeah, I very much do believe that in the end, the whatever finding may have been said to be accomplished in whatever fictional way is certainly due to the grace of God. From beginning to end. My so-called very beginning of interest in spirituality is grace. My efforts along the way are grace, and any so-called realization that I may have is also grace, all divine grace from start to finish. So yeah, that's what I would say.
So in that sense, is there a separateness or a oneness? If those are even distinctions that we can even talk about, like, is that like you are one with the divine, or you are separate from the divine, or we are different? Or is this distinction of identity and distinctions of separation, do they make sense? What
Yeah.
do you have to say about that?
So you mean generally speaking for people?
No,
So
but after your experience, where you see where there is clarity for you, and what clarity do you have about uh, you and me, for lack of better word,
see,
or you and the
yeah.
world?
So technically speaking, see, there's different how to put it. So, like I said before, as soon as you speak,
Yes.
as you say something, you
Yeah.
enter the perspective of distortion. This is the egoic perspective. Speech
Right.
defines the egoic perspective
Right.
because it's built on the subject-object distinction. The
Yeah.
subject-object distinction is not what it seems to be. So speech is also not what it seems to be.
Right.
So distinctions of separation and unity are also not what they seem to be. So if we are to use them, they can
Yeah.
only be used in very limited contexts for specific purposes, and and that's it. Any so-called realization that I have would be um about the inapplicability of those distinctions. Those distinctions do not capture reality. You
I
can't
see.
say it's the same. You can't say it's different. You can't say this. You can't say that. You can't say anything at all. You can't even say that you can't say anything at all.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you talk about liberation, enlightenment,
Yeah.
self-realization,
Yeah.
all of them are same, different, or it doesn't matter?
Yeah. I would say the liberation, enlightenment, self-realization, I use them synonymously.
Okay.
Yeah, and though I just said, right, all these distinctions don't matter, that's true in the absolute sense. But I will say, of course, for the seeker, I always tell people the seeker has to bear multiple perspectives in mind at the same time, and one which is a so-called absolute idea of their the fact that liberation is already accomplished and that they are already the self, which is very true. But at the same time, that they experience themselves otherwise, and that it seems to be that they are trapped, and that therefore they must exert incessant effort towards the practices.
Yeah.
and towards whatever else will help the practices move along. So in that sense, right, there are milestones of sorts, and increasing inner peace, increasing continuity of the practice and all that. But yeah, beyond that, everything else is just sort of very contextual, you might say.